let me get you on something very near and dear to your heart and very important to you, and that is race and the Republican Party. It is very clear that you do not think the Republican Party is doing enough to bring in African Americans. You spoke about it. Let's listen.
It's easy to preach to the choir, but we must take our message to new places, to new neighborhoods, and new communities. Learn to listen, whether Democrat, Muslim, minorities, or those who identify with the LGBT community.
I mean, is your party still, as we sit here today, even after the 2012 autopsy report, is it doing enough to bring African Americans and minorities in?
I believe there's a lot of improvements to be made. I never read that report, wasn't even aware of it when I left the ministry to run for Congress. I did something that specifically was in my heart, and I believe individual liberty and opportunity, prosperity, that should be good for all of our communities. Probably the thing that we're most proud of is those relationships, but they weren't pre-op or photo-op before when I ran for Congress. Those relationships have been long-standing. Our work in the inner cities of Cleveland, New York, and Baltimore, and recently became the first Republican, elected Republican, to speak a keynote at the North Carolina Legislative Black Caucus Foundation.
I know everyone else there was Democrat.
Because that goes beyond the Republican-Democrat.
I mean,
exactly.
Everyone else there was Democrat.
Is played there. That was. There were, and the speech that you just played at was not a nonpartisan crowd. That was at one of the more conservative conferences there in Washington, D.C. So we try to be consistent with our message.
So here's my question. I mean, look, I know your district. 1/5 of your district is African American. But you said recently, this week, this is much larger than my district. I am trying to lead by example. Well, does it make your job a lot harder to make this about the country and not just your district when the president says things like calling Omarosa a dog, or LeBron James dumb, or peddling birtherism claims about President Obama for years, or pointing to both sides in Charlottesville? Is he making your job a lot harder, sir?
Sometimes it can be difficult to explain some of the tweets. There's no question about that. What we're trying to do is look at the results instead of the personality sometimes. I have 3 children. I think you have a couple as well. We want to set good standards. President Obama was a good man, had a good marriage. I'd love for my children to exemplify that component. But you cannot deny that his policy added people into the poverty arena. We believe that President Trump's policies, as well as the House Republicans, are helping pull people out of that poverty situation. Ultimately, we've got to get away from this government notion that adding more people to a government program is a good solution. It's not. It actually stymies the American dream for many of these
Congressman, before we go, I mean, you said, look, sometimes it can be hard to explain his tweets. Really? I mean, is that it? Do you not find the way that you stand up for African Americans in your district, do you not find some of the things that the president has said racist?
I find them offensive. To be able to label someone a racist is sometimes trying to judge where their heart's intent. Some of the undertones, some of the things that I hear is not language that I use, because I know how hurtful and painful it is to many of my friends in these communities. We've got to continue to try to raise the standard, but we've got to get past this place also. Are we measuring more this administration about personality or about policy, about results? I hope that both matters. I get that. Character, integrity, and class always matter, but we want to make sure that we don't get distracted by some of this to miss some of the things that we believe are helping all of our communities.
Congressman Mark Walker, look, it's an important conversation. We'll keep